Travel at low cost with points and miles. Credit card rewards bring the smiles. Many adventures, tales to be told. Make and save money, the world will unfold. Fight the war on happiness, pick up the gold. Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast breaks the mold.
You're listening to the Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Vacula, here to help you travel the world at next to no cost. Credit card points, miles, benefits, and loyalty programs. Make money, save money, and take advantage of great deals. Thanks for joining me for today's episode. Holland America Nieuw Statendam Cruise Report. I'll talk about a recent cruise I completed with Holland America, thanks to a Wynn Las Vegas tier match offer. Visit meetup.com/Philly miles and points to RSVP for monthly Greater Philadelphia travel. Credit miles and points meetups I host in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. The next meetups are March 23rd and April 13th, 2025. Find a link in the show notes. For more content between podcast episodes, follow Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast on Facebook and X. Follow Justin Vacula on Instagram. Subscribe to Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast on YouTube, where you can become a channel member for daily content, including travel videos, podcast clips, community, and bonus videos. On with today's episode. All right, just back from the Holland America Nieuw Statendam cruise. I like saying it like that. That's the official name, Nieuw Statendam. As I mentioned in the introduction, this was a Wynn status match offer. In 2024, Wynn had a brief amount of time where you can present a competing casino players card and match to platinum status. If you stayed for 2 nights at Wynn Las Vegas, you got a free cruise or comp cruise from Holland America. And the tier match also gave a $150 birthday dinner, a spa credit, and I believe some other minor benefits like attending master classes. With Mandy, past podcast guest, we had combined our stays. So I was a guest on one of her nights. She was a guest on one of my nights. We combined the reservations back to back, and that qualified. There was also a stack with American Express Fine Hotels and Resorts credit, $200 off, and extra benefits using a booking with the Amex Travel Portal and the Personal Platinum card. So there are a lot of ways to match and save money doing this. Either matching from Caesars Diamond, which was previously a freebie from matching from Wyndham Diamond status from the Wyndham Business Earner card, not the Wyndham Business Earners card, or simply MGM Gold or higher status, earning MGM status through the MGM credit card, as I mentioned in many previous episodes and had a dedicated episode too. Check back in past content about earning Caesar status in 2025 and MGM status 2025. This might come up again, so I give a little bit of the details if Wynn Las Vegas offers a cruise match offer tied to a tier match offer. But from what I heard, the recent match did not offer a complimentary cruise. After the stay at Wynn, I had an email, congratulations, you've qualified for a cruise. Here's your cruise certificate voucher or code. Contact Holland America. It was very easy to call in and book this cruise. This time I chose a cruise out of Fort Lauderdale, as the dates lined up pretty well for that. Flew from Philadelphia International Airport, where the new Chase Lounge, the Chase Sapphire Lounge, had opened. See a past video on my YouTube channel for a video tour of that using my new Insta360 X4 camera. I flew out of Philadelphia to Boston with JetBlue, and then flew JetBlue from Boston to Fort Lauderdale. It was a bit of an odd route going east and then south, but looking at Delta, United, AA, and other carriers, I didn't have many good options with them. So JetBlue it was. I had lots of JetBlue points from the JetBlue credit card with Barclays. It was nice to use the Sapphire Lounge in both Philadelphia and Boston, and went to Hyatt Centric Las Olas. This was about 15 minutes from the Fort Lauderdale airport, pretty easy to get to, and nice hotel. Used a free night certificate for this Hyatt Centric property and enjoyed it. There was a nice breakfast with Globalist. It was an a la carte or choose your own menu in the breakfast section, not just a standard Hyatt Place breakfast. It was nicer than that. I also have a video on my YouTube channel of me exploring outside of the hotel in Fort Lauderdale. So stayed just the one night. I always like arriving one night before a cruise, not trying to leave super early in the morning and get to the cruise port. Then you have a flight delay, and that's really complicated. Don't want to risk that. We can use our miles and points, use our hotel points for the night before, and have a less stressful experience. Looking up the Holland America cruise, if I were to have booked an ocean view room with this Holland America cruise ship, Nieuw Statendam, it would have been about $1,200 a person, but this comp offer got 2 guests. And there were small expenses like internet, gratuities, and taxes. So not too bad, maybe about $300, $400 for this. And the offer also came with a $100 onboard credit that I used to offset the internet. It was about 15 minutes to the cruise terminal. So it was nice, 15 minutes to the hotel and then 15 minutes to the cruise terminal from the hotel. There was a little bit of a delay in the Uber ride on the way. There was a drawbridge, and then there was security outside of the cruise terminal. A person asked if we had any pew devices, just using that phrase for YouTube. And we simply said no, and they let us pull through. So there was no inspecting the car. There was just a verbal question, and that was it. So that was interesting. Would anyone actually say yes to that question? I'm not really sure. Upon getting in the terminal, getting dropped off, did not use the cruise parking, just Ubered to avoid that issue, having a rental before and then just paying for all the parking. There was almost no line. Arrived around 2 p.m. The deadline was 2:30, and there weren't many checkpoints to get in. So it was a very easy boarding process. Coming in, went directly to the room. It was a very spacious room. There were outlets near the beds. You can see a YouTube video I have of the ocean view room. It was quite spacious. The shower was really big. The bathroom had some space. There was a lot of storage. That was nice. Even after unpacking everything, the luggage took about an hour and a half to come. There was still lots of space, different shelves, cubbies. There was even an area with life jackets above the couch, and there was extra space in there, space under the bed. So I was really happy about that. Packing a lot of luggage to get in here. Then Mandy was here as well. So 2 people easily unpacking things and having lots of storage space throughout the room. A decent sized desk that was for laptop purposes, I imagine. I used that throughout the cruise, and also had my portable monitor. So there was enough space for both the laptop and portable monitor. So it was good. Nice room. This was on deck 1. There was a little bit of confusion upon getting on the ship as it was 1122 and was not sure whether it was floor 1 or floor 11. And even an attendant didn't know. It was in an elevator. He's talking about, there's no room on deck 11, I don't think. So maybe it's deck 1. There's no 0. And he's thinking about it. I said, can we just go to guest services and figure it out? He's like holding up the elevator. And I said again, can we please go to guest services and figure it out? Like he didn't know what was going on. So eventually went to guest services. They said, yes, it is indeed floor 1. So we went to the room and waited till the luggage came. We already had the breakfast at the hotel, so we weren't super hungry for lunch. So we waited in the room. The luggage eventually came. Pretty easy going there. Throughout the cruise, noticed that it was an older demographic, as past podcast guest Justin Walter had joked about, saying that it's an old cruise. I wondered why. Maybe there weren't as many activities for kids. There was a kids club, but there were no water slides. There was no water park. It was just some smaller pools. So it wasn't a kid-oriented event like maybe a Disney cruise would be, or some of the other cruise lines I've gone on. There were more kids, but this one was very much lacking in the kids department. So perhaps the fans of Virgin Voyages, you like that it's an 18 plus cruise, this didn't have many kids. So that could be helpful for those looking for that. Mandy went to a comedy event. There were a lot of old people jokes about depends, and a line that was something like, if your husband happens to be embracing you at the hip, don't just think it's a sign of love. It might just be that he's looking to see if you need a hip replacement. So all these like old people jokes catering to the crowd. It was interesting. I was even at dinner. I took a picture of the menu as I usually do, was at a shared table, and an older woman next to me said that she was glad she wasn't the only one who had trouble reading the menu. And I explained, no, I was just taking a picture. So she didn't understand what was really going on there. She thought it was an eyesight issue. For me, it wasn't. And then a guy to my right was calling me tech savvy. And he mentioned that he had an iPhone for 8 years, that he has the iPhone 4. So I'm not sure what you can really do with an iPhone 4, just making calls, maybe browsing the internet. Maybe you could have 2 apps installed. Maybe you could install the Holland America app. It was a really old app. It was odd. It just wasn't as intuitive that I would click on dining and it wouldn't say what the dining times were. So then I went into different menus and eventually found them. And it was encouraging me to connect to airplane mode, connect to the app, even though I was on the cruise Wi-Fi. So that was odd as well. But the dinner was very good. I'll get a little bit into the food later. But first, the internet. I think the internet was fine for streaming. I did pay for the premium internet. There was the Surf Stream internet, 2 different packages, and I believe a premium one as well. So I got the best internet. It wasn't much more, $100 onboard credit to help offset it. And with all the YouTubing and podcasting, I want to have good internet to upload and download files. And it was okay for downloading. It was a bit long of download times, maybe like 30, 45 minutes for something that would normally take at home about 5. But the upload speed was horrible. It was extremely slow. I was trying to upload my YouTube video of the Chase Sapphire Lounge shortly after I had edited and taken the video while I was on the ship. I didn't do it at the hotel, but it took more than 12 hours to upload this YouTube video. It was sometimes faster uploading speeds at port, then it was slow again. So it was usually, okay, I'll start uploading in the afternoon and then wait for it to be overnight. And then maybe the file was ready. Sometimes it was taking up to 20 hours to upload a 3-minute YouTube video. Customer service had no solution. They were just saying, oh, you could take your laptop with you at port, use Wi-Fi, but didn't want to do that. It didn't fix the problem. So internet, a little bit slow for that. So for those of you who may be podcasting, YouTubing, you want to upload stuff, I would try doing it before the cruise, schedule it for the future. That's what I think I'll do on future cruises. It's a lesson learned with Holland. This was the slowest uploading speed of any cruise I've been on. So internet aside, I think the food was mostly good. It definitely beat my expectations. The food was mostly behind glass, although there was some where you would use tongs or spoons to take items out of bins, but you could have completely avoided that, as you could have just favored the stations where everything was behind glass, or there were the made-to-order stations like woks, salad bar, and more. There was an egg station for breakfast. They had lots of oatmeal, muesli or muesli, however that's pronounced, a lot of breads, eggs, sausage, you name it. It was a very large spread for breakfast. They had fried eggs and then they had an omelet station. So there was a lot to choose from for breakfast. Lunch had a Mexican station, sandwiches, salad bar, made to order pasta stations. And I really liked the wok area. This was called Distant Lands, where they had a spread of fresh veggies. They put them inside of the wok with sauces of your choosing and tofu, different meats. So the stir fry or wok fried veggies I thought were really good and really healthy options. So I had that for most of the cruise, changing the sauces from day to day, adding or changing a little bit of flavor. They also had Indian food at lunch, as they did with dinner. Dinner, there was the Taste of Thailand section. It also had sushi, sometimes sushi for lunch as well. There was really good Indian food like lentil dishes, chickpeas, curry, masala, all kinds of Indian vegetarian food. Some of my favorite on the cruises. Thai food I also mentioned. So the Indian food and the wok fried veggies, I can eat that every day, and I did. There was a breadboard section with sandwiches, the homestead section, which has like French fries, meats, carving things, different vegetables, sometimes carrots, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, and an area called Wild Harvest. The servers came around at the buffet area with water, lemonade, iced tea. So that was nice of them. There were stations for coffee, different fruit juices, and more. So the buffet, I thought was pretty good. It was nice they had the made to order stations. This was something on Virgin Voyages I really liked, that everything was behind glass. And all the stations, I believe, had the made to order items. So it's more sanitary and fresher food. Really liked it. So the buffet at Holland America, I was there more often in the buffet than I was in the dining room, as the dining room didn't always have healthy choices and it didn't have many vegetarian options. But I did go to the dining room 2 or 3 times. I got things like tortilla mushroom soup, chili rellenos. They were peppers stuffed with cheese and rice. I had a portobello mushroom dish and a lot of other veggie options in the dining room. It usually took about 15 minutes after getting the menu to actually place an order. So that was a little bit slow. It's usually the case on most cruises. One reason I don't like the dining room. And initially you would get a shared table. If you wanted a solo table or a table for two, there would be a wait on that. It didn't seem like there was a way to make reservations in the app. It was just a walk-in type dinner. I sat with some, chatted with them, figured out some things about the trip, others' experiences. It was all right. There was also a section called New York Deli and Pizza that was open most times. Nothing really special here. Pizza, sandwiches, some fruits. More of the late night availability, I would think, even though it was open during the day. But at that point, if I were to want something, I would just go to the buffet. There was also an interesting place called the Grand Dutch Cafe. Sandwiches, quiche, pancakes, coffee, tea, salmon, herring, and a lot of other things with the Netherlands charm. That was open 11:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. This was complimentary for the most part, besides the coffee, tea, and some upcharged items. It is interesting in that the buffet, you could just get the coffee for free, but they were charging for it at the Grand Dutch Cafe. So maybe it was a better type of coffee, but as many podcast listeners will know, I'm not paying for food if I can just get things complimentary. And that was the case for this. The restaurants were not included. There were various upcharged restaurants and bars. I have zero interest in paying anything for restaurants or drinks on board when I could just get things for free. Really makes no sense to me. I just don't care. I hope many listeners would also save money. On to the casino. I had an expectation of going on this ship and charging to room and MSing in a way. And that if I'm charging to my credit card, I'm paying the minimum of what I need to cash out, then I would gladly make the credit card charges and stop playing. On previous cruises, I would usually buy in for $1,000 or $2,000 at the Blackjack table, play for about half an hour, maybe a little bit longer, and then quit, assuming the games were good rules, preferably when the table is busy. So there are fewer hands that I have to play. I'm not there to just play the game and straight up gamble. I'm there to get the spend on the credit card, play a little bit, and cash out. I've also played video poker on previous cruises, play through my deposits 1x, cash out. There were about 10 video poker machines with just video poker. I mentioned just video poker because on the previous Carnival Panorama cruise, many or maybe all of the video poker machines also had Keno. So there were Keno players who were clogging the machines. Keno, of course, being one of the worst casino games to play, but they don't really care. There was even one person on the previous cruise who said, I just don't want to think. And of course they aren't thinking because the house edge is tremendous. Keno. But the video poker here, I was seeing a lot of 7-5 jacks or better. There was a single play game that was $1.10 credit for the Royal Flush bonus. And there was also 7-5 jacks or better triple play. So this was 25-cent 5 credit for $3.75 per hand. Thought that was the better game rather than playing $10 a hand on a 10 credit game. But this was in the smoking section. The 7-5 jacks are better, around a 96% return to player. So with the credit card charges to room, if I were to use the Chase Sapphire Reserve, get 3x UR, or ultimate rewards on my deposit, I can play a game that's a disadvantage to the player because the ultimate rewards are going to offset that disadvantage. And perhaps I get some casino offers, additional comped things. Not terrible if the game's around 96, 97. If I'm using a credit card, that's pretty good. I also have the altitude reserve, which would be 4.5%. So even on a 96% return game, I'm still up 0.5% plus possible casino bonuses, casino comps. So I'd be okay to play video poker at a disadvantage, but stacking credit card rewards, I have a slight advantage over the game. There was also Blackjack. It was 3-2 if you bet $25 per hand. They had separate tables, $10 tables, 6-5, total garbage. Don't play 6-5 Blackjack. The 3-2 table didn't open until later. And even when the 3-2 table opened, there were people still playing the 6-5 $10 game. So people that just don't care, they don't know better. And there were even some people sitting on the 6-5 game betting $25 that didn't move over to the 3-2 game. A lot of stupidity. What I'd like to do on the podcast is teach you how to be a more intelligent gambler and only gamble. You have an advantage. Why would you be playing 6-5 Blackjack when 3-2 tables open? especially if you're betting $25 per hand. But even if I didn't have much or wasn't willing to gamble much, I just wouldn't play 6-5 blackjack. I think that's just horrible. The 3-2 rules were okay-ish. There was no surrender, strike 1. The dealer hits all 17s, strike 2. Continuous shuffle machine, strike 3. But they did allow resplitting and double after split. So there was that. And with the table games, there was no fee to charge to your room. Thinking of video poker, that's around 96-97% return to player versus playing a game where maybe you have a 2% disadvantage. There's no fee, then it's close. I've written articles about this for Travel Zork, and I prefer the video poker option because you're able to get worked out. And perhaps you hit that royal I did on a previous cruise. So you can check that article out on Travel Zork, the points and loyalty corner, gambling on Carnival Panorama cruise ship. There was also 000 roulette. I mentioned Keno as being a terrible casino game. 000 roulette, also a horrible game. 0 roulette is bad. 000 roulette is bad. Triple is even worse. So don't play 000 roulette. I'm not going to take any person seriously that plays 000 roulette. So moving on, I tried to buy in at the casino. First, I sat at the blackjack table. I tried to buy in. I was waiting, and the pit boss eventually came after 5 or 10 minutes, even after Mandy bought it, and said there was a block on my account from quote unquote the back office, and I couldn't charge to my room. I asked why. I mentioned this is my first Holland America cruise. He said there's no reason that he'd have to look into it. He mentioned that they partnered with Carnival Cruises and other cruise lines. And I told him I was able to deposit with Carnival. And he was asking, oh, you played there? You were able to deposit there? And I explained yes. And, oh, I don't know why there would be a problem with your account. And he said, well, you're welcome to use cash to buy in. And I explained to him I didn't bring cash. The point was using my room charge with credit and getting the miles and points on the credit card. And I said, I'm not willing to play anyway if I had to play with cash, but I'm willing to play with credit because of the miles and points. So I'm basically telling him, you're not going to get action from me unless I can do the room charge. I sat, I waited. He said, oh, I'll try to get an answer, and nothing developed. Day 2, I went back and the host showed me a piece of paper that said, please inform guest of house rules that we reserve the right to deny room charges. I asked if there was an explanation, what the real issue is, and he said nothing. Then he was talking about, did you deposit and play through all your money on a previous cruise? Because we know there have been people who would try to buy in for, say, $500. They'd play through about 100 on slots or video poker and just cash out. Cruise ships don't like that. I said, no, I sat there, I tracked all my tier credits. I made sure to play through all my money. And then he was saying, oh, maybe the problem is minimal play. And I said, I played through all the money once. I don't understand what the problem is. I don't understand why I would get denied room charge. I'm also here as a casino invited guest, and, oh, you'll have to contact them or I'll have to ask them again, but they're not giving me an explanation. So it was really strange. So I gambled exactly $0 on the ship. I'm not going to just straight up gamble. Just doesn't make any sense to me. I set a rule 10, 11 years ago that I'm just only going to gamble when I have an advantage. I've made small exceptions in the past for social occurrences. I sat down with the people from Destination Jackpot, their YouTube channel, playing video poker, and we were just straight up gambling, but they were doing it for video content and also tier credits. But even then it was their money, not mine. I've also played blackjack for short sessions with others that would say, oh, I just want you to go over some hands with me, or let's just play together. Okay, but I'm not going to gamble on this 3-2, no surrender, dealer hitting all 17s, continuous shuffle machine game using my own money. Like I said, I didn't even have money. I intentionally deposited money in my bank or I left some money at home. I was intending to do the room charges and could not. Moving on, I mentioned about the app was lacking a lot of information, like the times for dining, when to be back on the ship and when to leave the ship. That was really strange. They distributed all these paper leaflets throughout the cruise, and it got quite overwhelming. There were just so many of these papers that were passed out that had the times on it. Why wouldn't the times be on the app? So it was ruffling through the papers and looking for the times of everything. The app didn't indicate simple information. So the papers eventually piled up, threw some of them away, figured it out, but come on, just have the app be more straightforward and have the more important information like dining times, boarding times, disembarkation, all of that just wasn't there for some reason. Day 2, this was the first cruise stop at Half Moon Cay. Went to a lounge area and got a number, had to take a boat to get to the beach, as this was one of these where the cruise ship parked outside and it was a boat ride to get to the island. So it was pretty cool. I used my Insta360 X4 video to take some boat trip footage. I recently released that YouTube video on my Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast channel. It was a nice boat ride to get there. Looking around, there were several beaches. There were chairs that were available, even around 11 a.m. when I got there, as I would think there's a competition for chairs that people want to be on the chairs at the beach, but there were many available. There was an island barbecue area. I had a Jamaican black bean veggie burger, and there were several roosters in the area. It was an interesting place, a basketball court, pool areas, beach areas, bars, always bars, Half Moon Cay, private island. The boat ride on the way back I thought was even better as it wasn't as crowded. And it was about 10 minutes to get back to the ship. So pretty good photos on the way back, and was happy to be back on the ship after about an hour and a half of walking around and having the island barbecue. I also took a video of the island barbecue and put that on YouTube. Day 3 was a sea day. I got an invitation for a captain's welcome, 7 p.m. welcome toast, meet senior officers. So they gave out free champagne on one of the upper decks and some snacks that were going around. Nothing exclusive or special. I remember doing this with MSC, and you had to have an invitation, and it was in a special room, and they were checking the invitations. But this one was less formal and just in the middle of the ship, so everybody could have just walked in. So I'm not sure if the invitation was exclusive as casino guests or some other classification. Not really sure. There was some music at the BB King Lounge and the World's Stage. And during one of the dinners, I sat with one of the band members who was performing. So there were lots of entertainment options from music, comedy, performances, variety shows. Day 4, Grand Turk, Turks and Caicos. It was very windy on the upper decks and in between the ships, and it started to rain. After I was on the ground for about 20 minutes, it was heavy rain and retreated to the ship. But there were lots of interesting shops. There was a NASA area that had John Glenn and other space memorabilia, and a beach area. I took footage of the beach and the space and the shops and the far side. But after the heavy rain, I definitely retreated, and very much like the hot shower. There were some nice areas to walk around at Margaritaville area with the very clean and large pool in addition to the beach. So lots of swimming options. Day 5 was Amber Cove, Dominican Republic. This was my favorite stop. A very large pool area with water slides and zip lines. And walking up, there was a lot of nature, a lot of different plants, trees, and a really awesome view, a big field with solar panels, livestock, and the mountains. So it was cool to get up really high and get a nice view. I have video of that as well. Lots of video on this, as I've been more diligent about documenting travel through video rather than just photos. Near the slides and the zipline area, there was the viewing area with a bar and food, sea shops, ships, and mountains. So more cool areas, more vantage points. It was a big walk up to get to the water slides, and the water slides and the zip lines were the same area. The water slides went down to a big section, so there were lots of kids there. And I think it was cruisers from the Carnival Celebration or Magic, I believe, was the other ship. Not many kids on Holland America, but definitely a lot of kids' activities in Dominican Republic. And one area where I saw a lot of kids, and an area that I really liked, there was a waterfall, koi ponds or koi fish ponds, lots of flowers and insects inside of Amber. There was a display saying that Amber Cove inspired Jurassic Park, or that Jurassic Park took some ideas from Amber Cove with this resin that the insects were encased in, that a mosquito had led to the rise of the dinosaurs in the movie, I think was what they were explaining. There was also a plaza area with various masks. there was a carnival celebration area and a lot of vibrant colors, big sign that said Amber Cove, lots of shops. So there was lots to see at Amber Cove. Day 6, day 7, the final day was Nassau, Bahamas. It was nice they broke up a lot of these with sea days, but I think there were 2 in a row. So maybe it would be nice to have 1 day at port, sea day, 1 day at port, but this is just how they did it this time. Nassau had the straw market. There was lots for sale, including a wood carving section. I took some video footage of that. There were multiple sections in the straw market. Find all kinds of hats, musical instruments, bags, you name it, it was there. Lots of crafted items, especially in the wood carving section. There was a marina area with very clear water and a lighthouse. I was able to see right to the bottom and also see fish inside of the water. Lots of shops and restaurants. There was a Senior Frogs. In the shops at the start of the port were very colorful buildings. There were great photo ops, big heart flamingo displays, but not real flamingo, unfortunately. And masks once again. There was a museum, the Junkanoo Museum. And I heard this word Junkanoo when I was in Atlantis, as there was a Junkanoo parade that I have a video of back in the archive. And after Nassau, Bahamas, it was time to get ready to get off the ship. There were bag tags available at guest service. They suggested putting bags out before midnight so you can pack your luggage, leave it outside of your door. They take it and then getting it on the ground. So I did exactly that. I left some of the bathroom items in the room, my passport and some personal items, stuffed it in my drawstring bag, and was good to go. It was easy to retrieve the luggage after getting off the ship, as they had different colors for the bag tags and the areas corresponding with the colors. The last day, got breakfast. They called the boarding group with the baggage, colors. It took less than 15 minutes to get off the ship. And the ride share was maybe a 20-minute wait. Pretty easy. I liked Holland America. I wouldn't pay $1,200 for it, but to be fair, I wouldn't pay $1,200 for any cruise at the moment. But with the magic of casino tier matching and casino offers, I'm happy to take complimentary cruises if it means I just have to pay a few hundred in taxes, fees, and internet. I think a good experience. I kept myself busy throughout the cruise, practicing video poker, working on YouTube-related items. I had streaming services that worked just fine. Netflix. Although Mandy mentioned that her internet, the base package, didn't let her use Hulu. It just blocked it. And I've seen this happen on previous ships too, that if you don't pay for the higher grade of internet, it just blocks certain things. And this happened with me and Google Drives, that I wasn't able to access Google Drives on Virgin Voyages unless I had the better internet package. Pay the toll. It's okay. It's a complimentary cruise. You're just paying maybe $300-$400 all in after the experience. And I had the onboard credit, which offset some of that. So I was disappointed about the whole casino thing. Didn't gamble on board because of that back off, and really got no explanation for what I did wrong. There was no path for redemption. And I genuinely just don't know. Was Carnival unhappy that I did room charges, played the money through, and then stopped? Were they unhappy I won? I hit a royal flush and, Justin did room charges. He did about 8K, 9K. So now we're just not going to let him do any more because he knows what he's doing. And I think this is a lot of casino hypocrisy, that they're going to take the action from people who lose, people who don't know what they're doing. But then the people who start winning, they seem to be intelligent players. Oh, what is he doing with all this room charges? And then cut him off. And this happened with me on other ships too, that I would get up to around 3,000, 4,000 in room charges. Then they would say, you can't room charge anymore. You have money on hand. We're not going to let you room charge. And then I explained, look, I just want to do this for points and miles, and I'm willing to give you guys action. And they still say no anyway. A lot of casino stupidity is that they don't want to pay the interchange fees, that they have to pay some kind of fees to take these transactions. But hey, if you're offering video poker that's 96%, paying a 3% fee, then wouldn't you want to take that action? You are a casino after all. But I guess they don't. And they didn't this time. The host told me, maybe I mentioned, to go to a certain website and appeal. and I heard absolutely nothing back. Even sending an email, filling out their form, no reason, no explanation. But I was happy with the food on board. The room was very spacious. The beds were comfortable. It was a cool vacation for about a week. And now I'm recording in March 2025, March 9th, 2025, here for 2 nights in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm going to go on another cruise with Celebrity. So instead of flying back to Philadelphia area, going home, and then flying back at a later time, since this one's out of Fort Lauderdale, figured to take it and go on another cruise. So stay tuned for a future trip report and stay tuned for various cruise videos on my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel has been growing, so thank you for your support. That March 9th, 2025 recording, I'm at 1197 total subscribers. I reached 1,000 earlier this year. I've been doing daily content. So in addition to these longer form podcast episodes, I'm putting up these 3-minute or so travel videos and also podcast clips. So I'd appreciate if you subscribe to Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast on YouTube to support this, as I've also received monetization from YouTube. So this helps me be more full-time in the miles. Although I still find myself playing poker and in casinos, because that's also a good source of income and entertainment. Thank you for joining me for today's episode, and stay tuned for future content. Some closing announcements. Ticket sales for Zorkfest 2025, a Miles Points and Gambling event, are live at zorkfest.travelzork.com. I hope to see you at Zorkfest 2025 in Las Vegas from December 5th through December 7th. I'm also looking forward to other events 2025 and had a successful 2024 speaking at events with Award Travel 101, Travel Zork, Frequent Traveler University, and both Chicago Seminars events. If you're an event organizer and would like to have me speak at your 2025 event, please contact me. Visit meetup.com/Philly miles and points to RSVP for monthly Greater Philadelphia travel. Credit miles and points meetups I host in Willow Grove, Pennsylvania. The next meetups are March 23rd and April 13th, 2025. Find a link in the show notes. For more content between podcast episodes, follow Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast on Facebook and X. Follow Justin Vacula on Instagram. Subscribe to Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast on YouTube, where you can become a channel member for daily content, including travel videos, podcast clips, community, and bonus content. Search Hurdy Gurdy Travel on subscribestar.com or become a channel member on YouTube to financially support my efforts, starting at the $5 a month tip jar level. Receive special perks at higher subscriber levels, including private one-on-one conversations and asking podcast guests your questions. Find links and more at hurdygurdytravel.com. Another way to support me is signing up for Card Pointers. I'm now an affiliate with them. Use my Card Pointers affiliate link, cardpointers.com/hurdygurdytravel for a 30% discount on annual and lifetime plans. Card Pointers has a great app and browser tools to automatically activate credit card linked offers from banks, including American Express, Chase, US Bank, and more to maximize your savings. The website, udio.com, created the podcast intro and outro music. The AI features of the website, Descript, helped me edit and improve audio quality. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.
Travel at low cost with points and miles. Credit card rewards bring the smiles. Many adventures, tales to be told. Make and save money, the world will unfold. Fight the war on happiness, pick up the gold. Hurdy Gurdy Travel Podcast breaks the mold.